After multiple big wrecks, multiple red flags, and the race getting called early, we see a driver pick up their first career win in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the Spark Energy 300 from Talladega Super Speedway, the second race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series Plus, and the second race in the round of 12 as well. And I have to say that while the race kind of ended on a sour note, I thought generally the race is really good. We're going to go ahead and talk about it today. So, before the green flag even dropped in today's race, Justin Haley would actually have to go to the rear of the field for fuel inspection multiple times. And not only that, he would actually have to do a pass-through penalty for the green flag drop because of this, because the decals in the car, they had issues with that, and NASCAR decided to give him a penalty. So, on the outside, he had Justin Allgaier on the outside and Austin Cindric on the inside, and Justin Allgaier lost the lead early to Austin Cindric, and then Josh Berry started really showing a lot of really good pace, and he actually got the lead for a little bit, and then we saw AJ Allmendinger be able to get the race lead, and then Josh Berry actually was able to lost some ground at the beginning of the race, and then Justin Haley, and then the lead pack started catching Justin Haley during this run. Now, Justin Haley is actually able to hold up the race leaders, guys like Brandon Jones, among others, who actually were in the front contending for the lead, and he was able to hold it for a little bit, and then a few laps later, Justin Haley basically got left outside to dry, and he started really falling back. And then the finish started getting really exciting. Had guys like a little bit of training happening early in the run, but then Justin Haley was able to basically cause not any train racing to really happen at that particular point. And then John Hunter Nemechek got a really good run and was actually able to get the race lead. And he would have to defend against guys like Josh Berry, Brandon Jones, Austin Cindric, among others, who were basically trying to get the race lead to get a win, while John Nemechek, who was coming in for his first time with Joe Gibbs Racing, he was basically able to hold on. And actually, coming off the corner, John Hunter Nemechek will hold off hard chargers, and he would win stage number 1. Meanwhile, going into turn number 3, we would see the first kind of big wreck happen in this race. There was contact between Brandon Brown. Brandon Brown was trying to take them 4 wide, and Brett Moffitt also was there as well. And there was some contact between the 4 of them, and Sam Mayer and just AJ Allmendinger hit the outside wall really hard. It looked like both of them were going to have a lot of damage, and actually because this, their wall would get damaged. Thank God for safer barriers, because if it wasn't for that, Sam Mayer probably would have died about 20 years ago. But thank God for this technology of safer technology and all that stuff, because Sam Mayer was able to get out there. And AJ Allmendinger now, luckily AJ really isn't as much trouble as other drivers at the points we'll talk about in a little bit. But AJ Allmendinger would end up finishing 39th, and Sam Mayer would end up finishing 38th in the race. And then pit stops would happen at this point. And then we'd see Riley Herbst, John Hunter Nemechek, and them all basically take 2 tires. And Blaine Perkins also took 4 tires up to this point. And then, like I said, NASCAR decided to stop field and backstretch to be the first of a couple red flags that would take part in this race. Because after the damage that Sam Mayer had, basically NASCAR stopped to repair the wall in turn number 3. And NASCAR basically red flagged her for about 15 minutes. Now, this will come into play later into the race, because this will come into the time constraints at the end of the race. So about 15-20 minutes later, NASCAR basically fired the engines, and we got started with stage number 2 with Riley Herbst, who basically won the race off pit road. He was able to lead on the outside, and John Nemechek was second on the inside. And Riley Herbst is basically able to cape the race lead. And basically, it became a single final line up on the outside as Riley Herbst had the race lead and basically dominated. But then we started seeing the inside line really start working together. Guys like Brett Moffitt, Justin Allgaier, Josh Berry, Harrison Burton, and Brandon Jones all started working on the inside, and they started driving up to the front. And then we would see something really awesome. Blaine Perkins making his 7th career NASCAR Xfinity Series start in the number 23 for our Motorsports. He was able to get help from his teammates. He was actually on the inside, and they were side drafting for a couple laps with Riley Herbst. He was able to get help from his teammate Brett Moffitt, and he was able to clear, and he was able to win stage number 2. To give an idea of who Blaine Perkins is, Blaine Perkins, like I said, is making his 7th career NASCAR Xfinity Series start, but he was also a 3-time ARCA West winner who drove for Bill McAnally's organization and Bob Percotti's team in Sunrise Racing in the ARCA West Series last year, finished second to Jesse Love in the ARCA West Championship last year. So really cool to see Blaine Perkins get that recognition. He was able to win his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series stage. So pit stops would happen at this point. Jesse would actually only take fuel, and then most of the people took 4 tires. And then, of course, Brandon Jones would get a penalty for running over equipment and would have to go to the rear of the field. So because of this, you had Justin Haley leading the outside and Justin Allgaier leading the inside. And then actually what ended up happening was, and this is really crazy in early portions of this run, there were only 5 cars on the inside. You had Justin Allgaier out, the Hour 2 Hour Motorsports cars, and the other Junior Motorsports cars that were on the inside. And they were able to hold their own and basically keep the race lead for a little bit up to that point, which was really, really shocking with the super speedway package at that particular point. And then Austin Cindric, about 55 laps later into the run, with around 30 laps, well, about 40 laps to go at this point, Austin Cindric started basically overheating in the car, and basically because the car was overheating a little bit, but eventually that issue was able to get resolved after getting involved in some fresh air and not any more dirty air. He was able to not have any more issues on that. And then pit stops started happening up to this point. You would see the Junior Motorsports cars and Brad Moffitt, who I think Our Motorsports has somewhat of affiliation with the Junior Motorsports cars. They all decided to come down pit road, and most of them all decided to take fuel only on that stop. And then a lot of the other cars, the Fords and some of the Chevys and some of the Toyotas, all came down pit road. And then some of the other cars, the two Call cars, the RCR car, the J. Buford, among others, they all came down pit road as well a little bit later. And then Riley Herbst is actually able to keep the race lead. And then another caution came out with about 40 laps to go, technically about 40 laps to go in this race. Bailey Curry stopped on pit road, and basically I think he stalled on there. And NASCAR decided to throw the caution with around 30 laps to go in the race. And then most of the cars decided to stay out. And then at this point, other playoff driver would start running into problems. Jeremy Clements, unfortunately, was down a cylinder, and this would unfortunately affect their opportunity to be competitive in the race. This really would take him out of contention because Jeremy Clements actually really didn't have that great of run in Las Vegas after getting involved in the big one, and now he'll be going into the Charlotte Roll at this point, looking to try to steal away in there. So, on the restart, you have Riley Herbst on the outside and Noah Gragson on the inside. And then Noah Gragson is able to get the race lead and lead for a little bit. And then the next big one happened with around 24 laps to go in this race. Brett Moffitt got a really, really big run, and Jeb Burton also kind of came down, unfortunately, in them. And unfortunately, Jeb Burton came down and hit Noah Gragson and collected Brett Moffitt as well. And unfortunately, Noah came up and hit Maya Sider. Among all others were involved were Brad Sperry, Brandon Jones. Others involved were Cesar Baccarella, Ryan Vargas, Garrett Smithley, CJ McLaughlin, Santino Ferrucci making his first Xfinity Series start since Texas earlier this year, and Mason Massey. And CJ McLaughlin, I don't know what the hell he was doing. He literally drove in basically ARCA brakes into Noah Gragson. That could have been very, very dangerous. Luckily, Noah Gragson was all right in that situation because, like I said, that could have been extremely dangerous. And someone could have gotten seriously hurt in that situation. But luckily, he was okay on that front. And then NASCAR, once again, decided to red flag the race. Now, the big thing that was starting to happen was when this red basically crash happened, we only had about an hour of daylight happening. And on top of that, there started to be a potential threat of rain. Now, a lot of people were saying, why? How is it getting dark? Well, if you actually, the TV cameras light up a lot better at the racetrack. We'll talk about the daylight and all that stuff and issues with the track here just a little bit. But because of the nighttime and stuff, it looks a little bit dark, and it's also a little bit cloudy, not to mention. So it's going to look a little bit darker when it's cloudy outside than it is when it's sunlight. If it had no darkness and all that stuff and the clouds weren't dark, we wouldn't have any issues. It probably would have not ended the race. So on the restart, you have Jeb Burton on the outside and Brandon Jones on the inside. Jeb Burton was able to get the lead, and then actually Brandon Jones actually got the race lead, and then it became a single-file train at this point with guys like Brandon Brown and Jordan Anderson who really started to catch up. We'll talk about those guys in just a little bit. And then aggression started picking up with 13 laps to go. You have Brandon Brown on the inside, Justin Allgaier there as well, and Brandon Jones on the outside as well. And then the final big accident of the race happened. Harrison Burton would get some contact from Brett Moffitt down the backstretch, and Johnny Nemechek and Daniel Hemrick, Jeb Burton, Harrison Burton, Jordan Anderson, Alex Abate, Johnny Nemechek, Jason White, Josh Williams, and Riley Herbst would all end up getting involved in the wreck. Some guys who had a really strong days coming into this event. A lot of guys are really, really looking good. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys would be going into the next race looking to have to probably go and win because a lot of those guys are below the cutoff line. And then when the caution came out due to the last scoring loop, Brandon Brown actually had the lead. Now, looking at the video that came out, Brandon Jones actually was the leader. However, when NASCAR did not go and determine it by the video, they decided to go by the last scoring loop, which is what NASCAR has generally looked at over the last couple of years. So I think it was the right call to give Brandon Brown the race lead. And at this point, darkness started approaching at this point, and drivers started saying that they could not really see. And then NASCAR overall decided to make the decision with 7 laps to go to call the race, and coming off the corner and at the checker flag, the guy that won today's race was Brandon Brown. Brandon Brown picks up his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series victory at Talladega and becomes the second first-time winner today, not to mention after Tate Fogelman won the Truck Series race in very controversial fashion. Brandon Brown picks up his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series race pending post-race inspection. I am extremely happy for Brandon Brown. I've been watching this Brandon-built motorsports team for a long time and watching what they've been able to do. And I know that a lot of people are going to say it's very, very controversial for the way the race ended, but still, like I said, I've been watching this team for a long time, and you really want to root for smaller teams like this to really be competitive. And I've been rooting for Brandon Brown. Not to mention for a lot of this year, Brandon Brown really coming into until the last couple of weeks of the playoffs. Brandon Brown had been a contender for the NASCAR Xfinity Series Plus. Like I said, I've been watching the growth of this team over the last couple of years, whether it's in the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series. This team has been showing a lot of promise, and Brandon Brown is an excellent driver. And you want to see these owner-driver type of teams, also like Jordan Anderson's team, which we'll talk about in a little bit, who also got a good finish in this race. You want to see teams like this win. So really huge congratulations to Brandon Brown on picking up his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series victory. I cannot tell you how excited I was when he was able to win. So let's go through the race results now. So Brandon Brown picks up his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series victory. Brandon Jones finished the second. Brandon Jones actually had basically protested NASCAR, said he actually had the race in control of the lead, but basically with the last scoring lifts, he did not have the lead. But a very solid day for Brandon Jones, even after coming back from a penalty early in the race, finishing second. Great run for him. Justin Allgaier finished his third. A really solid point save for Justin Allgaier. I think he's in really good position now. I think he's actually really, if he's not locked in to the next round, I think he's really close to locking his way in. Daniel Hemrick with a solid top 5 points finish. I just want Daniel Hemrick to get a freaking win at this point, but a solid top 5 for Daniel Hemrick. Daniel Hemrick really wasn't that big of a factor. He ran top 5 and top 10 pretty much most of the entire race. I don't think he led a single lap, though, in the event, but he finished 4th in today's event. Jordan Anderson Racing, and Jordan Anderson finished in the top 5. Jordan Anderson's team looked like they had a shot to win. They helped Brandon Brown be able to get the victory, so Brandon needs to go over to Jordan and basically say, thank you for helping me win this race. But Jordan Anderson finishing in the top 5. After finishing, I think, 11th in the Truck Series race, and they had issues in the truck race, this car looked really, really sturdy and had a lot of speed. So really good to see Jordan Anderson get a top 5. And like I said, this Xfinity Series team is also a team that I think is going to win at some point in the next couple of years. I don't know when it's going to happen, but congrats to Jordan Anderson finishing in the top 5. Justin Haley, after his issues, he finishes 6th, solid top 10 for him. I thought Justin Haley was going to win the race. I think if that deck lid issue had not happened at the beginning, I do feel like Justin Haley would have had a shot to win, but a solid top 10 run. Jeff Burton finishes 7th. Jeff Burton was involved in a couple controversies that a lot of people were really talking about, including multiple of the instances, but a solid top 10 run nonetheless, finishes 7th right behind his teammate Justin Haley. Austin Cindric finishes 8th. I believe Austin Cindric after today is locked into the next round of the NASCAR Xfinity Series Plus. Austin Cindric led a lot of this race. It looked like he and Riley Herbst looked like to be 2 of the fastest cars in the event, but a solid top 10 run nonetheless for Austin Cindric. Josh Berry finishes 9th, another top 10. You love to see it. Josh Berry is a guy that I think absolutely deserves a lot of respect. You kind of don't want to trust him on these super speeds because he doesn't have a lot of experience. That being said, though, it is really awesome to see Josh Berry have another solid top 10 run after coming off a win at Las Vegas in the 1 car. I think he should drive the 1 the rest of the year and let Michael and Ness stay out because I'll tell you, I think that Josh Berry is a good driver, and you never know. Josh Berry may be able to do a lot of things going forward. And Joe Graf Jr. got a top 10 finish. How about that? I think that's Joe Graf Jr.'s first or second top 10 in 2021. So good run for Joe Graf Jr. Ryan Seat finishes 11th. Jay Buford finishes off. Not a bad run. Blaine Perkins finishes 13th. Really cool to see Blaine Perkins get a stage run. That was awesome to see. Josh Williams finishes 14th. Joey Gase finished 15th. Solid top 15 for the Jimmy Means Racing organization. JJ Elliott finishes 16th. Santino Ferrucci, even with the damage, he comes back and finishes 17th. Not a bad run for Santino Ferrucci. He didn't really get involved in any controversies. Unfortunately, got involved in one of the big wrecks. But solid top 20 finisher Santino Ferrucci. Tommy Joe Barnes finishes at 18th. Garrett Lee finishes in 19th, 20th place finisher Kyle Wedman, 21st place finisher Alex Bay, 22nd for John Nemechek after the crash at the end of the event, 23rd place finisher Matt Mills, 24th for Jeremy Clements, 25th for Harrison Burton, who ran in top 5 a lot of today. Brett Moffitt finishes 26th. Riley Herbst after his damage, who really looked like one of the top 2 or 3 cars in this event. I thought Riley Herbst was going to have a chance to win this event. He finished 27th after the wreck. Jason White finishes 28th, 29th for Jeff Earnhardt, 30th for Noah Gragson, 31st for Tobias Snyder, 32nd for Cesar Baccarella, 33rd for Ryan Vargas, 34th for CJ McLaughlin, 35th for Mason Massey, 36th for Bailey Curry, 37th for Landon Castle, 38th for Sam Mayer, 39th for AJ Allmendinger, and finishing last in 40th place is David Starr. So now let's go ahead and talk about the race as a whole and some of the controversies in this race. So first thing I want to talk about is the race. I thought that today's race was really, really, really good. I know that I'm going to be lowering the score just a little bit because at the end of the race, we'll talk about here in a second. But I have to say that the race was really, really exciting. And I did not expect the Xfinity Series race today to be as exciting as it was. Yes, you had your trains in the event, which of course you're going to have that with the Xfinity Series, but I will say that this is one of the most intriguing Talladega races for Xfinity Series in a long time. Yes, you had some really dangerous and some really scary accidents in this event, but I thought that this race was really, really excellent from start to finish. I am going to give today's race at Talladega Superspeedway an 8 out of 10. Like I said, my score would have been 9 out of 10 if they were able to get the whole race completed. I just think that the race ending a little bit early kind of dampers the mood for me just a little bit. The race is scored an 8 out of 10. Now let's talk about the other thing I want to talk about. Talladega 100% needs to have lights at the track. The fact that Talladega does not have lights at this point and we're coming into 2022 is absolutely ridiculous. I do not understand why Talladega does not have lights. I understand that they have the nightlife inside the infield and they don't want to have racing in the infield. But I don't think a few extra minutes, especially if rain delays happen, I don't think a few extra minutes of putting lights out there. I don't know how much money Talladega has. I don't know how much money they're making, SMI or RSC has. But I absolutely think it's ridiculous that we do not have lights at the track. There is no excuse for them not having lights. I think, especially since it's like the 5th race this year that has had to deal with basically darkness being a big factor in the event. Look back in New Hampshire earlier this year. They need to have this lights at the track. The other thing, with a track that does not have lights, you have got to not have these time windows be so compact. There should not have been as much of a downtime in that event. Or here's what we should have done. We should have run Xfinity earlier in the day and then run the Truck Series race. Since the Xfinity Series race takes a lot longer and the Truck Series race doesn't take as long, we should have ran the opposite way. Ran the Xfinity Series at 12 at 1 o'clock Eastern and then run the Truck Series at 4:30 Eastern. I think that would have made a lot more sense. Or 5 o'clock Eastern, whatever you want to do. There should have not have been that much downtime, and they should have had a flip-flopped, in my opinion. Regardless, though, those are my thoughts on the race at Talladega. So anyway, that is your today's NASCAR race review from Talladega Superspeedway. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on so you're notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support pages on the list description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's race. What are your thoughts on today's race and the controversies? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your score in the comments below. And congratulate Brandon Brown on picking up his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series race victory. Next week, NASCAR Xfinity Series will be heading to the Charlotte Roval to decide who gets into the round 8 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Should be really exciting. Maybe rain will come into play. We're not entirely sure, but we're going to the Charlotte Roval next week. But anyway, like I said, I'll thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.